In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to build a six-figure sports card side hustle from home. Even if you have a day job, I'm going to show you what most people do wrong and how you can start flipping sports cards like a pro. Stick around because by the end, you'll know how to turn your investments into serious returns. Step number one, research is key. Before you buy anything, you need to know the market inside and out. If you skip this, you're setting yourself up for failure. Let's dive into how you can research the right cards to flip. So I have my iPad here. Now, what do I mean when I say research? Well, all we're doing, we want to be buying the right types of players and the right types of cards. And before you do that, you have to understand what sport you should be buying. So simply put, you should be buying cards before they get hot, okay? Right now, while I'm speaking, it is February. And you want to be buying football, okay? We want to be buying football for the simple reason it's the off season. And if we're going to send cards in for grading, and let's say it's going to take a month or 2 months to get back to you, that means it has a decent chance of going up in value, simply put, because players in the offseason increase in value, they pick up pieces, get new coaches, etc., and excitement builds. So football is the best place to put your money. Now, the players you should be buying. So the players you should be buying in football, at least in my humble opinion, is really quarterbacks. You could just stick to quarterbacks because other guys don't appreciate the same and don't have the same liquidity, because what we're doing here, we're buying cards, we're sending them in for grading. If you don't know what grading is, I'll explain it in a second, and then we're selling them. And when you sell a sports card, it's going to a collector. There's just simply more collectors of quarterbacks. There's more collectors of Jayden Daniels than Malik Nabers. People just like quarterbacks, right? That's just how it is. So let's not run away from it. Let's lean into it. And some guys you could be buying right now, so Jayden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Drake May, Caleb Williams, and J.J. McCarthy. These are all solid names to buy right now. They have new cards that just came out, and you could send them in for grading. And realistically speaking, what grading is, right? Grading. So I'm not going to go too far into depth in this, but you can buy a card, get it graded, and then sell it, and you could buy a card for, let's say, $100, and it cost you about $20 to get it graded. And if it grades a 10 and you know what you're doing and properly how to evaluate the condition, this card can easily sell for $300. So this is the concept, what I'm talking about here when I say grading. And there's some other factors that go into grading, right? You need to know how to properly evaluate the condition of a card. So when I say that, you need to know how to look at the corners of the card, the edges of the card, the centering of the card, and the surface of the card. These are the big 4 pieces of criteria. So you want to be buying players that are low right now, okay, or that have a decent chance of appreciating, and you want to be sending these cards in for grading. That is the most realistic way to start making a few $1,000s a month at the minimum, buying and selling sports cards. Now, me personally, what I like to do, I like to go back a year, okay? So even though these quarterbacks right here are fantastic, what me personally, who I think are better investments, I'm going to put this in pink, so let's mark this off. So Eric's investments, since I like a little bit more risk, I like Bryce Young. I think he's a good buy. CJ Stroud, I think, is also a good buy. And Anthony Richardson, because you want to be buying stuff when it's not hot, selling it when it's hot. There's a famous saying in business, something is only an opportunity when no one else sees it as an opportunity. Now, a lot of people already see Jayden Daniels as an opportunity, but no one's thinking about CJ Stroud. No one's thinking about Anthony Richardson. Nobody's thinking about Bryce Young. These are all guys that are going to start for the next upcoming season. So if Bryce Young, if the Panthers draft a receiver or sign T. Higgins, you're going to see his value go up a lot. So the only downside to buying these guys that are a year old, it's a little bit harder to find cards to get graded. But this is what I mean when I say research. Ask yourself simply, if I'm going to buy a card today of a player, who is going to have a high chance of being worth more when I get this card back from grading in a month or 2 months? So that's step number 1, research. Step number 2 is about assessing the condition. It's not just about finding a good deal. You need to know how to assess the condition of a card to maximize your profit margins, okay? So when I say condition, let's just go over this real quick. So there are 4 pieces of criteria. We have corners, we have edges, we have centering, and we have surface, okay? These are the 4 big pieces of criteria. Now, when usually 90% of the time, you're going to be sending cards to a company called PSA. This is generally the best grading company to send cards to get graded. Now, PSA, what they care about the most are corners, okay? So you want to be looking at the corners of a card, and if there's any blemish or whiting or it's rounded, stay away. Then the next most important subgrade, these are called, is centering, and then surface, and then edges. Now, if any of these have any kind of noticeable flaw, the card's not going to grade a 10 because we're aiming to get these cards to simply grade a 10. But that's how to assess the condition of the card. And just to take one more layer on top, what you want to be doing is implementing something called the 2x rule. So if you're going to be buying a card for, let's say, $100, and you're going to be spending $20 to get it graded, you want to make sure you could at least net. You want to at least net $240, right? Because your total investment here is $120. After fees and everything, you want to at least double your money if this card's going to grade a 10 to make it worth your time. If you're buying a card for $100 and a PSA 10 is only worth $150, it's just simply not worth it. But that is step number 2 about condition. Step number 3 is knowing when to buy. Timing is everything in sports cards. Buying at the wrong time could cost you big. And I'll show you how to read the market and time your purchases for optimal returns. So this could be the most important thing I say this whole entire video. So we have timing, all right? This is great. So we have 3 big sports, right? We have baseball, and then we have football, okay? And then we have basketball. These are the main 3 sports you're usually going to be buying. There's money to be made with hockey and soccer and stuff like that, but I'm just going to focus on these 3 for now. Now, like I kind of said earlier, what you want to be doing is buy cards when they're low and sell them when they're high. Now, here's the thing in sports cards that you may or may not already realize. Most players don't perform up to expectations. It's just the reality of sports. Players get overhyped and never perform. So with that said, with baseball, for example, what you want to be doing with baseball is buying baseball in November to December and generally selling it right here in about February to March. Why? Because in November and December, these players are not playing. People are focused on football. The season just ended, right? And what you're doing by selling it into February and March, you're selling it leading up to the season. You're selling it leading into the hype. But notice, we're never selling any cards once that season starts. So baseball starts April 1st. You want no baseball cards on you. And what you do then is then you shift that money and you transfer it into football. So football, you want to be buying football usually in like February to like May about, and then selling football in July to August, okay? And same thing, right? We're buying when the players just got done playing in the offseason, and we're selling it leading up into the season because there's the most hype, there's the most amount of momentum, and then as you can imagine for basketball, it's the same thing, right? We're buying basketball in like about June to September, and we're selling basketball in, call it, this range this could be September to October. So you notice this is just like a cycle, right? You buy baseball in November, December, you sell it in February, March. You take that money into football, you buy it, you sell it in July, August, and then you take the money, you buy basketball, and then you buy baseball again, and you repeat over and over and over again. So that timing is huge because if you buy a card today for $100 and it gets back in May in the middle of the baseball season and it was a baseball card you bought, chances of it being worth what you want is just not high. It's probably going to be worth less in the future than it is today. And like I said, if you're going to be buying a card and you're going to send it off for grading and it's going to be away from you for a month or two, you want to be buying assets that have a high chance of going up, not down. But that is step number 3. Drop a comment if you've ever lost money on a card because of bad timing. let's talk about what went wrong. Stick around because I'm about to reveal the biggest mistake people make when flipping cards. Step number 4 is the right platform to sell. Where you sell your cards is just as important as what you buy. I'll walk you through the best platform to use and why it will help you make money. So, check this out. So, selling, all right? This is key, and this took me a long time to learn, honestly. So, you might think, oh, the best place to sell is eBay. And some people make a lot of money with eBay, but this is actually wrong, in my opinion. The best place to sell that I've had the most success with is actually Facebook groups, number 1, and also card shows. Let me explain to you why. So, you ever hear that expression in business, your net worth is your network, or your network is your net worth? One of those two. I say it all the time. I still don't know the saying. But Facebook groups, card shows, you could get people's contact information and do repeated deals with them, as opposed to on eBay. eBay doesn't want you sharing personal contact information because they want you to do deals on their platform, right? Because they make a fee, right? Makes sense. And Facebook groups are an amazing place to buy and sell cards. So what you want to be doing when you sell a card, you want to be getting that person's contact information as well as buying the card and saving it. Save it in your phone, save it on a Google spreadsheet, because if you could do a deal with someone once, chances are you could probably do a deal with them again, right? And you don't have to go out looking for cards or looking to sell cards to. Just hit up your database, right? That's what people, if you ever hear the saying in business, the fortune is in the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up, but the fortune is actually in being organized. So that's tip number 1. And the other tip I would say is don't be that guy if a card is worth $300 you want every last penny, you want to sell it for $310, $320, $330. Be reasonable. Sell it. My general rule for selling cards is I sell it at 90% of value. So if a card's worth $300, I'm usually selling it for $270 to $280 because, one, it sells faster, which means I get money faster than put back into cards. And also, people just like you more and want to do deals with you. So sell it for 90% and use platforms where you could actually build connections. It will pay off huge in the long run. And that leads me into step number 5, pricing strategy. Setting the right price is crucial. You can't just throw a number on it and hope for the best. Here's how to price your cards to move them fast and at the best rate. So, like I just said, you want to be building connections, right? For the simple reason you can do deals with these people in the future. Now, let's walk through a scenario. So, let's say you buy a card for $100, right? And your grading cost is $20. And let's say the card grades a 10, and now this 10 is worth $300. Now, what most people do is they want every single last penny, and they want to get $300, $310. But let me explain to you why actually pricing your cards cheaper makes you more money, and that might sound like an oxymoron. So check this out. Let's put a little thing here. Let's put a little line, and let's walk through 2 different scenarios, okay? So scenario 1, on the left-hand side, let's pretend you want to sell this card for $300. So you're not going to be able to sell the card right away. Usually it takes a little bit of time to find the buyer. So, right, you get this card back from grading, and now step number 1, you'll probably wait, let's call it 1 month to sell the card. Okay, that's not right. 1 month to sell the card. Step 2, what you're going to do is now you have $300 in your pocket, and now you can reinvest this money into grading. And let's say it takes 2 months to get a card back from grading. So you reinvest the $300. This is just a hypothetical example. It takes 2 months to get a card back from grading. And now step number 5, you turned this $300 into $600. Let's say you doubled your money again, just to pretend. And this happened 3 months later, right? Because it took 2 months for grading, and you had to wait a month to sell the card. All right. So now you have $600 3 months later. All right. Pretty straightforward. But let's say on this side of the equation, we actually priced the card. So let me just make this clear. We priced the card at $270. Well, step number 1, it sells ASAP. because people want to get good deals, and if you're buying the right types of cards, you'll have no problem selling a card at 90%, especially if you're buying the right cards at the right time. So now, right, you have $270 in your pocket. Number 3, right, you reinvest. Number 4, let's say it takes 2 months again for this card to come back from grading. And step number 5, now let's say you doubled your money again. So now you have $540 2 months later, right? 2 months later. So the question you have to ask yourself, would you rather have $600 3 months later or $540 2 months later? The obvious answer should be the pink side. $540 in 2 months is better than $600 in 3 months because money is worth more to you today than it is in the future. It's called the present value of money. Simply put, now you have $540 and you can repeat this cycle over and over again. And in the course of a year, you on the right-hand side, the pink side, you're making money at a 50% faster rate, right? 2 months versus 3 months. So in the long run, you're making more money. In the short run, right, most people just look at it $540 for $600. But in the long run, because you're getting money back faster, you could turn it over faster. And when you look up in 12 months from now, you'll have a lot more money doing what's on the right-hand side of this than the left-hand side of this. It's just called opportunity cost, right? The cost of you holding that card and trying to get every last dollar is just not worth it. And also on top of it, because you're being fair, now you're building more connections and people like you more because you're that guy that actually has fair deals. But that is step number 5. Step number 6 is reinvesting for growth. The final step is reinvesting your profits. If you don't reinvest, you're leaving money on the table. I'll explain how to grow your business faster with reinvestment strategies. And honestly, this is very simple. It's going to seem stupid, but I promise you, people do this wrong all the time. So I've taught sports cards to thousands of people by now. And because people aren't used to making extra money. Let's say you've made $7,000 a month from your job for a long time, and now you start buying and selling sports cards. You get good at it, and you add an extra $4,000 a month to your monthly take home. People get excited, start taking out a new lease on a car, upgrading their home. Don't do any of that stuff, okay? Alex Hormozi puts it great. I don't mean to sound like too severe because you should enjoy your life and take a little bit of money here and there, but literally, especially if like you're on your grind and you want to quit your job, or, money's a little bit tight, be as cheap as humanly possible. Don't go out for food. Don't take your money and spend it elsewhere. What I would do if I was buying and selling sports cards and starting over again, I would have a separate business bank account. I'd put my bankroll in there of $5,000 or $10,000 and never touch it. I would never touch it because that money compounds, right? You're buying, you're grading, you're selling, you're buying, you're grading, you're selling. When you take some away, it really messes up your flow. So simply put, keep it all in there. There's no need to take money out of your investing, right? Just like you'd be hesitant to take money out of a 401k because there's a penalty. Imagine there's a penalty for taking money out of your sports card business bank account. So simply put, that's step number 6. Be as cheap as humanly possible and don't touch any of your business or reinvesting money. Hopefully that video provided you some value. The 6 simple steps to make sports cards a simple, rewarding, low stress side income. It's something I've been doing for 10 years. I've been teaching people how to do it for the past 5 years. And I think it is the most amazing, incredible way to make a side income online. But if you like this stuff, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.